Hello and welcome to Copic in the Craft Room. It is Michelle Houghton here, and we are going to take a look at a new stamp by Spellbinders today. This is, they have a whole series of these that do these. It's a cling stamp set, so it's got that thicker foam backing on it. And then, if you can see just from the image itself, what they've done is they've done these little, like, you can't even see them, tiny dots that are creating the shading of the shapes and the image itself. There's a couple different ways that you can color these, and obviously I'm going to color them with my Copic markers. That's why you guys come and visit this particular YouTube channel. And I'm going to actually do it in two different ways today. Now, I'm going to finish the first one because it's really fast and easy. The second one I may or may not finish, but you're at least going to get a feel for that. But basically, I'm going to stamp this image two completely different ways. The first time, I'm going to actually color the stamp with my Copic markers, and you guys had a chance to see me do that one time with a penny black stamp. This time, I'm going to do it with the Spellbinder stamp. And then I'm also going to stamp it just with the black ink and then color it with my Copic so you can see the difference of how that looks in some of those areas. So completely different look. This particular set is Phoenix, Arizona. It is a beautiful cactus kind of desert scene. So we're going to start with that, and I've got some real pretty earth tones and yellow greens that I'm going to use on that. So I'm going to place this. I have a MISTI, but any of your stamping tools will work for that. Make sure it's going to end up right in the middle of my paper. And then I'll zoom in a little bit close so you can see me color this, and then I'll back out as I stamp. I'll speed it up for the coloring portion. So I am starting with a G42 and coloring in the cactuses. I'm going to a G99 to do some of the kind of shadows on these. It's very extreme differences when you're doing a technique like this. Staying with the G99 and hitting the shadows on these other cacti, and back, sorry, to a G82. And notice I'm scrubbing off some of that darker color. YG91 is going in on the shrubs. And I'm just filling in all those areas. It is a little hard to see on these stamps what's what, so I have to go back and forth a little. YG95 for some shadow. YR24 is going in on the ground. There's a lot of rocks, and so I'm doing that. The YR27 is coming in for the shadow on those. And E47 is going to go into those deepest shadows and some of the shadow that looks like it's on the ground. I'm also going in and doing the branches on the shrubbery. BV34 is going on the back rocks. I really wanted a blue violet or violet on those kind of rock formations in the back, and a V09 to do the shadows. Again, these are huge jumps in value. To go ahead and stamp with this, some of those inks are going to be dry because the Copic ink dries so quickly, being alcohol based. So I'm going to spritz this. This is colorless blender in this little cheap mister. There's nothing magic about that. Colorless blender is, so you do have to make sure to have that, not just an alcohol solution. That's definitely not water. So I'm going to do 2 or 3. I did a fourth one at the top, light mist, stamp my image, and come back, and this is what I got. I'm actually pretty pleased with that. I can, at this point, if there's places that I don't feel like got inked really well, a little bit in this cactus, but I like the fact that I can see some of this detail out here. So I could hit that one more time with the colorless blender and stamp again. Get a little more ink on the page. There's a couple little wet spots that those are going to dry. What I'm seeing is a little bit of colorless blender, but that gives me a really nice watercolor looking print. Now, of course, the next question is then how do I clean off my stamp? What I have been doing, and seems to be working pretty well, is to spritz this with the Color Splendor a little bit more, and then coming in with a paper towel and just pressing, nice even pressure. It's going to pull up that ink. I can do a little more if I need to, and then when I'm completely done for the day, I can use kind of a more standard stamp cleaner. A lot of those have a little bit of a oil to them or moisturizer to condition the stamps. And that adds a little bit of moisture back into that stamp if you're a little concerned about the alcohol drawing it out. So that is one way to use these really cool new stamps from Spellbinders. The other thing I'm going to do though, while I have it here, is I am going to go ahead and stamp it a second time. This time just with my Memento ink, which I know works beautifully with my Copic. Now you can see what we've gotten is a beautiful tonal stamp in that there's lights and darks. What they've done is they've created these little tiny dots. So it's almost like a pointillism or stippling type action. And so where those dots are tighter together, you have that darker action. By stamping in a black, or you could do like something like this image would be beautiful in an earth tone or a brown ink, you can do that, and then my shading is basically taken care of. I can come back and start working over with my markers again, and I'll do a little bit of this just to give you a feel for that. I probably would do most of these with 2 color combinations again of these areas, but I've got so much shading happening with the stamp itself, I won't need a whole lot more. So I am using the same color series. G82 is what I'm starting with on the cacti, and notice you're going to see this difference when I come back and show you the 2, but this really fills in the cacti. You can see the entire branch. You don't in the other print. That G99 is the next color. Again, the deepest shadows. I'm not going to do a whole lot of blending just because I'm using the shadows that are already presented in the stamp. YG91 again on that shrubbery, kind of filling in those loose leaf areas, and then YG95 for the shadows in those areas. Really the same colors I used before. The YR24 is going to be on the rocks, and I'm realizing there's more than what I put in on the other. YR27 is the next, the shadow. And then the deepest shadow is going to be that E47. But I decided I really need a lighter on those rocks to show the top edges. So YR31 comes in new on this stamp and fills in those top light areas on the rock. E47 is going in on the branches of the shrub again, and now I can see more of it. So I'm adding a few more small tendrils. E84, YR31, YR24. I'm whipping through a lot of colors. I can see more now that I've stamped with that black ink. YR27 along the ground. Here comes that E47 in those deepest shadow areas. And then my BV34 is going to fill in those cliffs, those big rock formations in the background. And again, this is filling in more because now I can see that solid area of rock.
that you can't see with just those little pieces of the stamp. And then V09 is going into the shadow. And unfortunately, my titles on iMovie are not working at this point, so you're going to have to just go with what I'm saying, but there's not a lot left. I do apologize for my voice. I've been cheering at a swim meet all weekend. So BV34, I am going to soften this one up a little bit, and I'm going to go in on those shadows on the ground.
So a completely different look for a couple of reasons. Obviously, the one is going to be considerably lighter. We lose the outline because the way they've designed these stamps is really to be used like how I did the second one, in that it's stamping those deepest shadows. It's not giving you the whole shape. So it's giving you the deepest shadows. And so when I color on the stamp and stamp with it, what I'm stamping is the deepest shadows and some of the detail. And so I can still get a feel for that image, and I still have a really beautiful watercolor image. And I actually like this a lot. I like the watercolor effect. I like the fact that it's crazy fast. But this one is equally as lovely. The benefit of doing this particular style, and I could do some of this on this first one, but obviously now I can go back in and add sky, I can add ground color, I can add some other things, and you get the full shape of the cactus. So for example, looking at the top of this one versus this one, I lose that open side because they haven't added those dots. That's the highlighted side. And so I fill that in when I color in the shape, but it's not there for me to fill in when I'm just stamping and stepping away. So you do get a very different look from the same stamp, but isn't that the best? You've got a stamp that's going to be used a couple different ways and get completely different effects. These were obviously the exact same colors used in the same areas, so you can get kind of a direct side-by-side comparison. But they have a whole line of these, and they are again by Spellbinders. So check them out, and of course use your Copic markers and share when you can. And because I always love to see your guys' work, and I'd love to see it over at Copic in the Craft Room. Thanks for joining me this week, and have a happy, colorful week.